when God gets, he is love, so it's not like he turns it on, but when that is flowing, you'll see that when that's flowing from him to us, it generates something in us. It's like there's this influx of grace that creates within us a desire to do the same thing. And next thing you know, we're giving out of the overflow. We're giving out of whatever he puts in us. That's why you see someone who's a new Christian, all of a sudden they're loving, they're compassionate, they're passionate about the poor, they're passionate about helping other people. They're looking around saying, who can I help? Who can I give to? Well, what's happened is they've just experienced something of his heart. And now that grace that comes in has to come out, and next thing you know, you feel like giving. You see it in the book of Acts really clearly. All these 3,000 people on the day of Pentecost, they get born again, baptized in the Spirit, baptized in water. All of that happens. They're sitting under the apostles' teaching. They're in fellowship. They're breaking bread. And all of a sudden, they become concerned about each other. And they start selling their land and giving it away. They're saying, hey, I've got 2, you don't have any. Let me give you mine. And when you read Acts chapter 2 and Acts chapter 4, it's church at its best. It's church, but it's coming out of this flush of grace that was poured in, and now they want to pour it out. And they start giving at a level that you don't. In fact, they're giving at a level that you can't make that up. No pastor can generate that. You can't legislate that kind of giving. It is either there or it's not. Watch a church where the people have tasted something of the grace of God. The whole place will be just thriving on giving. They love to give. You get into a place where they haven't had a move of the Spirit. They've gotten caught up on a sandbar of legalism. They're not flowing. They're not going anywhere. And I'll tell you, they are awfully tight with everything. They're tight with encouragement. They're tight with grace. They're tight with giving of finances. They're tight with everything. Everything has to be merited. And all of a sudden, if they could receive a flow of fresh grace, next thing you know, they'd want to give, they'd want to go, they'd want to help, they'd want to get involved. They'd say, we've had an awakening, a grace awakening. One time when we were working in the Ukraine doing mission work, the Ukrainian brothers who were with us, they came to us and they said, there's a village that we can't seem to break into. We can't. When we go there to preach, they throw stones at us. They throw rocks at us. We can't seem to get anywhere with them. You Americans are so different. Everywhere you go, you just turn the hardest heart. Well, we were like the biggest circus that ever come to town. We were Americans. We were different. We looked different. We dressed different. We drew the crowds. But because we were free, they'd been under something for 50 years. And we're coming from the outside in, we just look effervescent. We look neon compared to everybody dressed in black. And they said, well, they must have been talking among themselves. So what would happen if we took this group to the stoning village and see what happens? Because everywhere they go, people love them. So the name of the village literally translated, the stoning village. And so one day, our team got in the bus, and they headed off, and they had clothing, they had garden seeds, they had food, they had medicine, they had all kinds of stuff to give away. Well, they got off the bus, and they started walking down. It's a one-street town, little tiny log houses on both sides of the street, facing each other, cobblestone street in the middle of nowhere. And as they start walking through town, people start coming out of the woodwork, and cursing them and looking for something to throw. And they started throwing sticks and stones and chased our team back onto the bus. It's the only way they could survive this onslaught of hatred. And they talked about it on the bus. Maybe they made a mistake. Every little town has a kind of a quasi-mayor. Maybe we didn't do that right. And so they decided to go talk to the mayor. And he wasn't particularly pleasant or eager to have these Americans come. And so they couldn't do anything what they wanted to do in the Stoning Village. So they left. They went back to the States. And they decided that the first village we want to go to when we go back, we're going back at that time every 6 months, the first village we want to go to is the Stoning Village. And they began to pray and ask God to show them what to do. And so the next time I happened to be on the team and on the bus at the same time, and they had gone to the mayor and got permission. They did everything they could do. And of course, the bus parked at one end of town, and they got garbage bags filled with clothing and all kinds of stuff. And they start working their way through the village, and people come out. I remember this little old lady walking beside me, and she's cursing me. I can tell. I had enough Ukrainian by that time that she wasn't saying anything nice at all. She's cursing. Just her face was so angry, so filled with hate. And we just kept walking and kept giving. And one great big guy, he got a hold of our translator who had just taken out his camera. And this before cell phones or anything like that. He took out his camera. Well, it was justification to beat him up. And so the great big guy held his hand just above our translator's head. He was going to pound him in the ground like a stake. And for some reason, his hand wouldn't come down. And he wanted to. You could tell he really wanted to. And he's just looking down his nose in contempt at our translator, who's so meek, so not a fighter. I mean, he's just standing there, and he won't let go of the camera. And the rest of us we're watching that. We're concerned about that. But we just keep walking, and we're being cursed, and they're looking for stones and stuff to throw at us. We just kept going. The Ukrainian on our team was a guy named Volodya. And Volodya, he walked over to the big guy. He whispered something in his ear. And the guy threw down his hand and sulked off and walked off. And we just kept walking. And another guy came roaring into town on his horse and wagon. And he came screeching to a halt. And he demands to know what we're doing in his village. And he's living. He looks like a twin brother to the guy who's about to beat up our Ukrainian translator, Ukrainian translator. He looked like a twin brother. And I said, Lord, what do I do? And I felt like the Lord said, ask him if he has anyone sick at home. So I asked him that. And I said, we have a doctor on our team. We have medicine. And he looked at me, and he just couldn't quite believe it. He's still angry, but he doesn't know what to do. He slapped the rear end of his horse. The cart went up on 2 wheels. I remember that. He boogied out of there so fast, the cart went up on 2 wheels. He took off. A little while later, he came back, and he had 2 kids. So the Lord knew that he had kids that he loved at home who were not well, and our doctor started looking after them. We prayed for them. Well, it was an effort. It was a huge effort. But we walked the whole length of the village. We got through to the end of the, one street town. And we started making our way back to the van. We'd given out clothing, fish hooks, calendars, colorful calendars, all kinds of stuff. Little baggies of aspirin. One lady, I remember, she's saying, she's not just mad at us, she's mad at the village people, saying, don't take their stuff. It's a trap. They just want to buy our affections. Well, we started walking back out toward the van, and I was never so astonished in my life. People started passing over the gates. They would stay behind their walled gate, the entry to their house, and they'd hold out bowls of eggs and give them to us, and big homemade bread, and baskets full of cherries, fresh cherries. I remember those 3 in particular. And every step we took, people would come and they'd start giving out to us. And because I knew what Jesus had worked in my heart, I knew that grace had broken through. And the reason they're given to us now is because grace had tripped their hearts. And it's the same as you see in the book of Acts. When there's that influx of grace, they get saved, they get baptized in the Spirit. The first thing they want to do is they want to give. I don't know how many times I've seen that with new believers. They come to church, they meet the Lord, or their life is, they're taken out of the miry clay, and they're just so grateful. They just want to give. And I believe that's God, and I believe it has to be harnessed and with integrity. You cannot exploit that. You cannot monkey with that. I would never want to have to stand before Jesus and have to explain to him how you took advantage of that. But at the same time, you can't say no to it. You have to give them the fulfillment of doing it. But your heart better be right, because that's a really precious thing in the sight of God. He wants them to give. And that's an essential thing that's taking place there. When we're born again, the Father and the Son, Jesus said, my Father and I will come live inside of us. So they're great givers. And so we receive the Spirit of the Father, receive the Spirit of Christ. They come and live inside of us. The first thing that they want to do through us, and you feel the impulse, you feel their heart beating. One of the first things they want to do is they want to give. It's part of the new nature. It's part of what God's doing in a new believer.